So we went from small chemical levels, like atoms and elements and molecules, compounds, and ions. And now we're talking about larger molecules. And they have an appropriate name, macromolecules. Macro means big, right? So macromolecules. Macromolecules are also called polymers, okay? Polymers, many molecules, whatever. A big molecule, big item. And they're made up of smaller mers, monomers, single mers. So you should know this difference between polymers and monomers. Now we know, already walking in this class, you probably didn't know that they were classified as macromolecules, but you know what the macromolecules are because everyone is concerned about what they eat at one point or another in their life. So the 4 macromolecules for humans and animals: proteins, lipids or fats, carbohydrates. The 4th one you probably didn't know about, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are DNA and RNA and a couple other agents, okay? So these are the 4 macromolecule categories. And here's a picture of glucose. And it shows what's called a carbon backbone. Now, glucose is part of what's called a carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, okay? Because it's made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, okay? And it has this background, it has this connection. So it is, even though it's a small macromolecule, it is a macromolecule. These can be much larger. This is an example of a macromolecule, glucose. Now, we need to know that proteins, the polymer protein, is made up of amino acids. And lipids and fats are made up of fatty acids and a few other things that I don't need to go into right now. Carbohydrates, complex sugars, if you will, even though people greatly misunderstand the phrase sugar in this regard, are made up of simple sugars or monosaccharides. Okay, and this is where glucose would fall into this category over here. So the monomers of carbohydrates are monosaccharides. Okay? And then nucleic acids, which we'll talk about in a few slides coming up here, DNA in particular, are made up of those A's, T's, C's, and G's you might have heard about. And they're called nucleotides. Okay? So please know that these are the polymers, and they're made up of these monomers. Okay? Basic building. This is basic biology. The other thing you probably should know about is metabolism. Now, when I'm in a classroom and I ask this question, metabolism, everybody raises their hand. They know what it is. But everybody knows it in only one regard. They think about metabolic rate and the rate at which you break down calories. Again, probably because they were reviewing their dietary needs at some point. Well, metabolism actually has 2 parts to it. It has the part where it breaks stuff down. That is called catabolism. We break down polymers. That's why the arrow's going this way. Breaking down of polymers into monomers is called catabolism. But the other half of metabolism is anabolism. That's when we turn monomers into polymers. Okay, you may have heard of anabolic steroids and they build muscle. Well, that's what they do. They promote anabolism. But every time you eat food, you engage in catabolism, you break it down, but then those small elements get circulated throughout your entire body and they build stuff up. They build new cells, they build new tissue, right? They make you healthy. So catabolism and anabolism are in balance. They're not necessarily in balance, but they try to be in balance in a healthy individual. And they have everything to do with this concept of polymers and monomers. So please know that relationship.